Franz Hals was born in Antwerp, Belgium in the 17th century. As a child, he moved to the Dutch city of Haarlem, where he never left. It is rumored that he studied under Carls van Mander, a Mannerist painter. However, this is uncertain. Hals' early work is loosely composed and appears to have been painted very quickly. However, it hasn't. Hals had a very unique way of painting that made his paintings appear to take minutes rather than hours. This Dutch painter was best known for his portraits of tavern entertainers, soldiers, and other unique individuals. He also painted many images of groups. In the beginning, Hals' works were cheerful, bright, and usually of seemingly drunken individuals enjoying some sort of merriment. As he grew, however, Hals' works became darker and more calculated. His colors of choice became more somber, and his subjects just didn't look quite so happy. As Hals aged, his portraits aged. They left the fun-loving time of youth and began contemplating life and death. Though he was often commissioned for his works, Franz Hals was incessantly broke. He was the foremost Dutch portrait painter. From him, we have a unique and accurate representation of the members of the 17th century Dutch bourgeoisie. Hals presented a whole new manner of painting. His less calculated means of painting, his obvious brushstrokes, set him apart from the other painters of his time and era. In the mid-1600s, Franz was commissioned to paint this portrait, called The Meagre Company, by Captain Renier Real. Now, this portrait was not originally called The Meagre Company. It was so named after its creation because the figures in the portrait are so thin. Now, this portrait was not painted in Franz Hals' native Haarlem. Franz actually had to travel a long distance in order to paint these men. For 3 years, Franz traveled back and forth, and he got pretty fed up with it. And the people he was painting got pretty fed up too. And they told him, okay, look, you have 10 days to finish this painting that you have half completed. You have 10 days. Otherwise, we won't give you a cent. And Franz Hals he said, nope, keep your money. I don't want it. So these people were kind of stuck. So they hired a man named Peter Cody to paint the second half of the painting. And this man tried very hard to imitate the brush strokes and the style of Franz Hals, but he was so unique that no one could do it. And they were just unused to his style at the time. So if you look at a close-up of the two halves of the painting, you can see that Franz Hals' side is much more rough and loose, and Peter Cody's side is incredibly smooth. It's too smooth. This painting is called The Merry Drinker, and it was painted by Franz early in his career, in the early 1600s. We know that this was done early in his career because it is a very cheery, happy portrait. The background is a light yellow color. The man is clearly happy. His mouth is open as if he is about to speak. He's got a cup in his right hand. His other hand is raised. He's clearly a happy guy. In the 17th century, it was not unusual for men to be portrayed with a glass in their hands. But it seems unlikely that this merry drinker is a genuine portrait. Patrons preferred to present a proper and dignified image to future generations. This was probably a painting of an imaginary drinker intended for just general sale. This guy is holding a glass, and it's decorated with prints, and this glass is called a Birkemeyer. It was commonly used by the Dutch bourgeoisie during the 17th century. As to the meaning of this painting, it has been suggested that the merry drinker personifies the dangers of drinking. In other words, this painting is a warning against excess. But honestly, I don't really get that from this painting because I just see a man having a good time. You know, there's no crashed cars or hurt families, you know, it's just a guy having fun. So I don't really know how that could possibly warn me against excess. When I saw this painting, I immediately thought, and I read that it was such a taboo to have yourself painted in this way back then. I found it amusing because a quick pop onto Facebook and I could immediately find an exact likeness to this painting 1,000,000 times over in 1,000,000 different friends' photo albums. And I just thought that was really interesting, that today we have this lovely portrait, which is, much like the Merry Drinker, and yet the Merry Drinker was not how you wanted to be portrayed back then, but it is oh so hip now.